The distant stars twinkled peacefully in the void, unaware of the massive armada cutting through space toward the blue planet. Admiral Kim stood on the command deck of the Draconian flagship Eternal Flame, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the holographic projection of Earth. His yellow eyes narrowed with anticipation. 3 months until we reach the target, reported Captain Bayek, his voice carrying the distinctive metallic resonance of all Draconians. All 317 warships report optimal status. Admiral Kim nodded, his ceremonial armor glinting under the harsh lights of the bridge. The humans have detected us? Yes, Admiral, their primitive scanning technology identified our approach 2 days ago. Their global communications networks are in chaos. A thin smile crossed the Admiral's reptilian features. Good. Let them panic. Fear weakens resolve. The Draconian Empire had conquered 17 civilizations across 3 galactic quadrants. Their military doctrine was simple but effective. Overwhelming force, psychological warfare, and no mercy. Earth would be their 18th conquest, a strategic location on the edge of unexplored space and rich with resources. Meanwhile, on Earth, the United Nations Security Council had convened an emergency session. The room buzzed with tension as Defense Secretary Yoon delivered the news no one wanted to hear. The Draconian fleet is the largest we've ever detected. Conservative estimates put their force at 3 million soldiers, supported by autonomous battle drones and quantum weaponry that exceeds our current capabilities by at least 30 years. President Han rubbed her temples. What are our options? Conventional. Defense is unlikely to succeed, Secretary Yoon said, choosing his words carefully. However, Project Umbra may offer an alternative. Across the room, Dr. Song looked up at the mention of her classified research initiative. Her team had been working on theoretical space-time manipulation technology for 15 years, hidden in an underground facility in Antarctica. The project had been deemed too experimental, too dangerous for practical application. Until now, Project Umbra isn't ready, she stated flatly. We've only run simulations. The energy requirements alone would... We're bringing 9 nuclear reactors online to support your power needs, interrupted General John. Whatever you need, you'll get it. Because right now, Doctor, your project is the only thing standing. Between humanity and extinction, the weeks that followed saw unprecedented global cooperation. Former enemies shared military resources. Scientists worldwide contributed to Project Umbra. Massive underground shelters were constructed to protect as many civilians as possible. In orbit around Jupiter, Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station tracked the Draconian fleet's progress. Lieutenant, Park hadn't slept properly in days, surviving on synthetic caffeine and nervous energy. They've destroyed the Neptune outpost, he reported to Earth Command. No survivors. The news feeds showed the destruction in high definition. The research station erupting into a silent flash of light against Neptune's blue atmosphere. 12 researchers and 35 military personnel gone in an instant. On Earth, riots broke out in major cities. Religious groups proclaimed the end times. Others held final parties, spending their savings on one last celebration before the invasion. Dr. Song didn't have time for panic. Her team worked around the clock, testing and refining the fold, a theoretical technology that could manipulate the fabric of reality itself. If we can create a pocket dimension, she explained to President Han during a secure video call, we might be able to relocate the threat. Relocate, not destroy? Destruction requires energy proportional to the target. We can't generate enough power to destroy a fleet that size. But creating a fold in space-time, it's like opening a door rather than demolishing a building, much more efficient. Meanwhile, Admiral Kim's fleet approached Mars. The Draconians had studied human military capabilities extensively and found them wanting. Their only significant concern was unusual energy readings detected from Antarctica, readings that suggested technology far beyond what Earth should possess. Should we target the energy source first? Asked Captain Beck. Admiral Kim considered this. No. Their planetary defenses are our priority. Whatever they're building won't be completed in time. Deploy the scout ships to collect final tactical data. Sleek Draconian scout vessels, shaped like manta rays with pulsing blue engines, detached from the main fleet. Their organic metal hybrid hulls absorbed radar signals, making them nearly invisible to Earth's detection systems as they slipped past Mars. One such scout encountered an Earth cargo vessel delivering supplies to the Mars colony. The human ship, a bulky transport called Pacific Trader, had no chance. The Draconian scout's quantum torpedoes tore through its hull like paper, vaporizing the crew of 23 instantly. When news of the attack reached Earth, it solidified humanity's resolve. Volunteers flooded military recruitment centers. Engineers worked triple shifts to prepare planetary defense systems. In her Antarctic lab, Dr. Song made a breakthrough. "The dimensional calculations check out," she told her team, pointing to complex equations floating in holographic display. "We can create a stable fold large enough to envelop their entire fleet." Researcher Cho looked skeptical. "But the power requirements will drain every connected grid on Earth for approximately 7 minutes, Dr. Song finished. "It's why we need perfect timing. We'll have one shot at this." As the Draconian fleet passed the Mars orbit, Admiral Kim addressed his invasion force. Millions of soldiers, scaled reptilian warriors bred for conquest, stood at attention on ships throughout the fleet. For 3,000 years, the Draconian Empire has expanded across the stars. Earth will be another jewel in our crown. Their resources will fuel our ships. Their people will serve our needs, and their planet will become the launching point for our expansion into the next galactic quadrant. The soldiers roared their approval, the sound echoing through the massive warships. Their confidence was absolute. Never in their history had the Draconians tasted defeat. Little did they know that on the seemingly primitive planet ahead, humanity was preparing to change that perfect record forever. The Draconian fleet moved past Mars like a metal storm cloud, their engines leaving trails of blue-green energy that stretched for kilometers behind each vessel. Admiral Kim stood before the massive view screen on his command ship, watching as Earth grew from a blue dot to a clearly visible planet. He could make out the continents now, the swirling cloud patterns, the sparkle of city lights on the night. "Side, target the primary defense installations first," he ordered. "I want their missile systems, orbital platforms, and communication arrays eliminated before the first landing craft touches atmosphere." Captain Bayek nodded sharply. "The Uranus defense outpost has been destroyed, Admiral. Neptune's science station as well. Earth appears to be unusually quiet. Indeed, all Earth broadcasts had suddenly ceased 12 hours earlier. No radio signals, no digital transmissions, nothing but silence from the blue planet. They've gone." "Dark," Admiral Kim mused, tapping his clawed fingers on the console. "A primitive attempt at concealment, perhaps. Or have they accepted their fate?" "Shall we proceed with the attack plan?" asked Captain Beck. "Of course. Their silence changes nothing. Deploy the first wave." Below on Earth, in the Antarctic facility, designated Deep Castle, Dr. Song stood before a bank of monitors displaying the approaching Draconian fleet. Around her, hundreds of scientists and engineers worked frantically, making final calibrations to the fold technology. The massive chamber hummed with energy as superconducting rings the size of football fields began to spin, creating a controlled magnetic field unlike anything humans had built before. President Han's face appeared on the main communication screen. "They've destroyed our outer system defenses. Are you ready, Doctor?" Dr. Song took a deep breath. "As ready as we'll ever be. Remember, once we activate the system, all power across the planet will divert to our facility for 7 minutes. Hospitals, cities, military installations, everything goes dark." "The emergency protocols are in place," President Han assured her. "Every critical system has backup generators. We just need those 7 minutes." General Jeon interrupted, his usually stoic face showing rare emotion. "The first wave of Draconian ships is entering our atmosphere. We have less than 15 minutes before troops begin landing." In orbit, 50 Draconian warships broke formation, their sleek predatory shapes descending toward Earth's atmosphere. Each carried thousands of soldiers and hundreds of assault vehicles. The ship's external armor began to glow red as they hit the upper atmosphere, creating a terrifying display like falling stars across the sky. Admiral Kim watched with satisfaction. Begin the standard intimidation protocol. I want their major cities to see our approach. Fear will reduce resistance by at least 40%. The descending ships adjusted their trajectories to pass over. Major population centers, Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Mumbai, their massive engines creating sonic booms that shattered windows and set off car alarms. People stood in streets, parks, and on rooftops, watching the alien ships with terror and awe. In New York, Officer Kwon directed evacuation traffic when the first Draconian ship passed overhead, its shadow darkening 10 city blocks at once. The ground trembled from the acoustic pressure. "Keep moving," he shouted to the terrified civilians. "Follow the evacuation route to the underground shelters." A young woman stopped, pointing upward. "Look, something's happening to that ship." Officer Kwon glanced up just in time to see the impossible. The massive Draconian vessel, easily the size of several football fields, seemed to waver like a reflection in disturbed water. Its outline blurred, stretched, and then it was gone. Not exploded, not crashed, simply gone without a trace. Similar reports flooded in from around the world. Draconian ships disappearing mid-flight, vanishing without explosion or debris. In orbit, Admiral Kim's command center erupted in chaos. "What's happening?" he roared, slamming his fist on the console. "Report!" "We've lost contact with the entire first wave," Captain Beck replied, his voice tight with disbelief. 50 ships just gone. Impossible. Check the sensors. Sensors show no debris, no energy signatures, nothing. It's as if they simply ceased to exist." Admiral Kim's yellow eyes narrowed to slits. "Launch the second wave immediately. Different approach vectors. And scan for any unusual energy signatures from the surface." The second wave of ships, 60 vessels, broke from the main fleet, accelerating toward Earth. At the same time, the E2 sensors officer called out in alarm. "Admiral, massive energy surge detected from the southern polar region. Target it. All available weapons." Beams of concentrated energy lanced from the Draconian ships toward Antarctica, but it was too late. The second wave of ships began to disappear, just like the first, fading, stretching, and vanishing completely. In the Antarctic facility, Dr. Song watched the monitors as the energy levels peaked. The entire building vibrated. The air itself seemed to crackle with static electricity. "It's working!" shouted researcher Cho, pointing to the displays showing Draconian ships vanishing. "The fold is consuming them." "Maintain power," Dr. Song ordered, her voice nearly drowned out by the howl of the machinery. "We need to sustain the field until the entire fleet is processed." In orbit, panic spread through the Draconian fleet. Ship after ship disappeared, not just the attacking vessels, but the support craft and command ships as well. Admiral Kim watched in helpless rage as his mighty armada literally vanished before his eyes. "Full retreat," he finally ordered, but it was too late. The fold had expanded to encompass the entire fleet's position. As the command ship itself began to shimmer and distort, Admiral Kim rushed to the escape pod bay, only to find that space itself seemed to be bending around him. "This is impossible," he whispered, watching his own hands begin to blur like a digital image losing resolution. "What kind of weapon is this?" The last thing Admiral Kim saw before his ship completely vanished was Earth, peaceful and blue, spinning, below as if nothing had happened at all. 6 hours after the first ship disappeared, it was over. Where once the largest invasion fleet in Draconian history had loomed threateningly in Earth's orbit, now there was nothing but empty space. In Antarctica, Dr. Song collapsed into a chair, exhausted but triumphant. The fold technology had worked perfectly. Around her, the team erupted in cheers and tears of relief. "Where are they?" asked President Han through the newly restored communication link. "Are they destroyed?" Dr. Song shook her head. "Not destroyed, relocated. They exist in a pocket dimension. Now a bubble of space-time separate from our universe. They're still there, still whole, but unable to return. Are they aware of what happened?" Time works differently in the fold. For them, only seconds have passed. Admiral Kim is probably still giving orders, unaware that for us, the battle is already over. As dawn broke over an Earth that had faced extinction and survived, humanity began to realize they had accomplished something unprecedented. They had defeated the undefeatable Draconian Empire without destroying a single ship or taking a single life. The sleek Galactic Council shuttle glided toward Earth, its ion engines barely a whisper against the blackness of space. Inside, Investigator Lee adjusted her formal grey uniform, mentally preparing for the diplomatic challenge ahead. The Council rarely dispatched investigators of her rank, but the disappearance of the entire Draconian invasion fleet, over 300 warships and millions of soldiers, without a trace, was unprecedented in galactic history. As the shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere, Lee studied the briefing materials one final time. The facts were simple yet baffling. The Draconian Empire, undefeated in 3,000 years of conquest, had sent their largest fleet to subjugate Earth. The fleet had entered Earth's orbit, begun initial invasion procedures, and then vanished. No debris, no distress signals, nothing. "Preparing for landing at New Geneva International Spaceport," announced the pilot, a tall, blue-skinned Rigelian with 4 arms. "Local authorities have been notified of our arrival." Lee nodded. "Any response from their government?" "They've assigned a liaison. Commander Choi will meet us at the terminal." The landing was smooth, the spaceport surprisingly ordinary for a planet that had just faced, and somehow survived, an existential threat. As Lee disembarked, she was struck by how normal everything seemed. Ground crews serviced various spacecraft, passengers hurried to and from terminals. Digital displays showed arrival and departure times in multiple languages. Nothing suggested this planet had faced annihilation just weeks ago. Commander Choi was waiting at the bottom of the ramp, a middle-aged human male with short black hair and the crisp uniform of Earth's United Defense Force. His expression revealed nothing as he offered a formal bow. "Investigator Lee, welcome to Earth. I trust your journey was comfortable." "As comfortable as can be expected when investigating the disappearance of the galaxy's most powerful military force," Lee replied. "I appreciate your government agreeing." "To this investigation?" Something flickered in Commander Choi's eyes. Amusement? Concern? It was gone too quickly to identify. "Of course. The Galactic Council has every right to investigate unusual occurrences in its jurisdiction. Though I should mention that Earth has not yet formally joined the Council." "A technicality that doesn't concern me," Lee said. "My mandate is to determine what happened to the Draconian fleet, not to negotiate Earth's membership status." Commander Choi led her to a sleek ground transport vehicle that glided silently through the spaceport. "You'll be staying at the diplomatic residence in the city center. I've arranged meetings with relevant officials beginning tomorrow." Lee studied the cityscape as they moved through it. The architecture was a blend of modern efficiency and historical preservation, not unlike many developing worlds she'd visited. Nothing suggested advanced technology beyond what would be expected for a civilization at Earth's development stage. "Commander, I've reviewed the official report your government submitted to the Council. It states that the Draconian fleet chose to withdraw after observing Earth's defensive capabilities." "That's clearly not what happened." Commander Choi kept his eyes on the road ahead. "What makes you so certain?" "Because the Draconian Empire doesn't withdraw. In 3,000 years, they've never retreated from a planned conquest. More importantly, we've received no communications from the fleet. Not a single ship has returned to Draconian space. According to our monitoring stations, they simply disappeared while in Earth's orbit." The commander nodded slowly. "I understand your concerns. Perhaps tomorrow's meetings will provide clarification." The next morning, Lee found herself in a series of frustratingly unproductive meetings. The defense minister insisted no unusual weapons had been deployed. The science director claimed no knowledge of any technology that could affect an entire fleet. The foreign affairs secretary suggested perhaps the Draconians had experienced some sort of internal rebellion or technical malfunction. None of it added up. On the third day, Lee decided to change tactics. Instead of following the official schedule, she slipped away from her diplomatic escort and made her way to a university where, according to her research, theoretical physics research was being conducted. The campus was beautiful, tree-lined paths, historic buildings, students hurrying between classes. Lee found the physics department easily enough. Outside one laboratory, A small plaque caught her attention. Dr. Kang Jin-ho, Theoretical Spacetime Research. The laboratory door was unlocked. Inside, holographic equations floated in the air, incomprehensible symbols and numbers shifting and rearranging themselves. An older man sat at a desk, his back to the door, manipulating the equations with gentle hand gestures. "Dr. Kang," Lee said. The man turned slowly, unsurprised by her presence. "Ah, the Galactic Council investigator. I wondered when you'd find your way here." Lee stepped forward. "You know who I am?" "Of course. Your arrival has been discussed in certain circles." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit. I imagine you have questions about the fold." Lee froze. "The fold? I don't believe that term was in any official briefing." Dr. Kang smiled slightly. "No, it wouldn't be. Yet here you are, following the breadcrumbs anyway." "What is the fold, Doctor?" "A theoretical application of space-time manipulation. The ability to create a pocket dimension, a bubble of reality separate from our own, but connected at specific points." He made a gesture, and the holographic display changed to show two spheres connected by a narrow bridge. "Like this, you see, two universes touching at a single point." Lee felt a chill run through her. "And this is relevant to the Draconian fleet because theory isn't always just theory." Dr. Kang stood and walked to a window overlooking the campus. "Throughout human history, we've been underestimated, by ourselves, by others. We appear primitive, divided, easily conquered, but necessity has always been our greatest teacher." "Are you telling me?" Lee began, but was interrupted by the laboratory door opening. Commander Choi stood there, flanked by two security officers. "Dr. Kang, this meeting wasn't authorized." "She was going to find out eventually," Dr. Kang replied calmly. "Better to control how the information is shared." Commander Choi sighed. "Investigator Lee, please come with us. There's something you need to see." They took her to a facility deep beneath the Antarctic ice. The journey involved 3 different transport methods and multiple security checkpoints. When they finally reached their destination, Lee understood why. Before her stretched an enormous chamber, housing what could only be described as a tear in reality itself. A shimmering, vertical oval of energy that seemed to both exist and not exist simultaneously. "This is one of the access points," Commander Choi explained. "There are 7 around the planet, all heavily guarded." "Access points to what?" Lee asked, though she already suspected the answer. "To the fold." He gestured. "Toward a control station, where technicians monitored complex displays." "Would you like to see the Draconian fleet?" One of the technicians adjusted settings, and suddenly a massive view screen activated, showing what appeared to be normal space, except there, suspended in perfect formation, was the entire Draconian fleet. The ships appeared intact, but completely motionless, frozen in the moment of their attack. "They're not destroyed," Lee whispered. "No," Commander Choi confirmed. "Destruction wasn't necessary. We simply relocated them to a space where they can do no harm." "How is this possible?" "Your civilization shouldn't have this level of technology." Dr. Kang stepped forward. "As I said, investigator, necessity is a powerful motivator. When we detected the Draconian fleet 3 months ago, we accelerated a research project that had been theoretical for decades. Project Umbra was our last hope." "The Draconians," Lee said slowly, "are they aware? Are they conscious in there?" "Yes and no," Dr. Kang replied. "They exist in a time dilation field. For every year that passes in our universe, approximately 1 second passes for them. From their perspective, they've only just arrived at Earth." "And what is your plan for them? Will you ever release them?" Commander Choi and Dr. Kang exchanged glances. "That decision hasn't been made," Commander Choi said finally. "Some argue they should remain where they are indefinitely, a permanent reminder to others who might threaten Earth. Others believe that when sufficient time has passed, we might establish communication, explain what happened, and offer them a chance to rejoin normal space, under conditions, of course." Lee stared at the frozen fleet, trying to process the implications. This technology would completely upset the balance of power in the galaxy. The Galactic Council would demand access to it, other species would fear it, and Earth previously considered a minor developing world, would suddenly become one of the most powerful forces in known space. "Your report to the Council," Commander Choi said, breaking the silence. "What will you tell them?" Lee considered the question carefully. Her duty was to the truth, but some truths could lead to more conflict, more suffering. "I'll tell them," she began slowly, "that Earth has defensive capabilities beyond what was previously understood, that the Draconian fleet was not destroyed, but neutralized in a manner that prevents them from causing harm while preserving life, and that Earth is open to peaceful diplomatic relations, but will not tolerate threats." "You won't mention the Fold specifically?" Dr. Kang asked. "I'll mention that Earth has developed space-time manipulation technology," Lee replied. "But the full details? No. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share freely." As she left the facility, Lee wondered if she was making the right decision. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. A species that could make an entire invasion fleet vanish without a trace was not to be underestimated, and perhaps that had been the point all along. The mountain facility sat nestled between two jagged peaks, its exterior designed to blend with the natural rock formation. Only the occasional glint of reinforced glass and the small landing pad revealed its artificial nature. Investigator Lee's shuttle touched down with a soft hiss, kicking up swirls of snow that danced around the craft, before settling back on the ground. "I wasn't expecting visitors," said Dr. Kang, waiting at the entrance. He was an older man with silver-streaked hair and deep lines around his eyes that spoke of both laughter and worry. His simple grey clothing contrasted with Lee's formal Galactic Council uniform. "Few people expect the Council," Lee replied, pulling her coat tighter against the biting wind. "Especially when an entire invasion fleet disappears without explanation." Dr. Kang led her through a series of security checkpoints, each more sophisticated than the last. Retinal scanners, quantum signature readers, and AI guardians that seemed to analyze her very thoughts. The facility itself was surprisingly warm, with soft lighting that gave no hint of the mountains of ice surrounding them. "You're not what I expected," Dr. Kang said, as they entered his private laboratory. "The Council usually sends military types to investigate matters like this." Lee smiled thinly. "The Council tried that approach first. The 3 officers they sent returned with nothing useful. I'm their alternative method." The laboratory was a stark contrast to the building's sterile exterior. Plants grew in hydroponic tubes along the walls. A small fountain bubbled in one corner. And scattered throughout were devices Lee couldn't begin to identify. Spinning metallic objects that seemed to phase in and out of visual perception, crystals suspended in energy fields, and holographic displays showing mathematical equations so complex they resembled abstract art. "So you've been looking for Project Umbra," Dr. Kang stated, gesturing for her to sit. "It wasn't a question. I've been following fragments, whispers, references to something called the Fold, and all trails lead here, to you." Lee removed a small recorder from her pocket. "The Draconian Empire is in chaos. Their ruling council demands answers. 17 other species are watching closely. The galaxy needs to know what happened." Dr. Kang walked to a wall panel and pressed his palm against it. The center of the laboratory floor slid open, revealing a pit descending deep into the mountain. A soft blue light pulsed from below. "Come," he said simply, stepping onto a platform that began to descend without visible controls. Lee hesitated, only briefly before joining him. The platform carried them down in silence, the temperature dropping noticeably with each meter. After nearly a minute, they emerged into an enormous cavern that took Lee's breath away. The space was impossibly vast, clearly expanded through some technological means beyond the mountain's natural boundaries. Dominating the center was a ring, structure nearly a kilometer in diameter, composed of a material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Teams of scientists worked at various stations around the periphery, but the ring itself was untouched, isolated by energy barriers. "This is the Fold generator," Dr. Kang explained, his voice echoing slightly in the massive space. "Or at least the control mechanism for it. The actual technology extends far beyond physical space." Lee struggled to process what she was seeing. This is what made the Draconian fleet vanish. In simple terms, yes. Dr. Kang led her to a monitoring station where a technician stepped aside respectfully. But vanish isn't quite accurate. Look, he activated a display that showed what appeared to be normal space, but with subtle distortions, like looking through imperfect glass. And there, suspended in this warped reality, was the entire Draconian fleet, perfectly preserved, but completely motionless. "They're frozen," Lee asked, leaning closer to the display. "Not exactly. They exist in what we call pocket space, a bubble of reality separated from our dimension. Time passes differently there. For every year in our universe, approximately 1 second passes for them." Dr. Kang adjusted the display, zooming in on the fleet's flagship. Right now, Admiral Kim is likely still giving orders to begin the invasion. From his perspective, they've only just arrived at Earth. Lee's mind reeled with the implications. "You didn't destroy them, you relocated them." "Precisely. Destruction wasn't necessary. The fold technology allowed us to simply move the problem elsewhere. But this is—" Lee struggled to find the words. "This is centuries beyond what Earth should be capable of. The Council's assessment of human technological development placed you at least 300 years away from this kind of manipulation of fundamental forces." Dr. Kang smiled, though there was little warmth in it. "The Council's assessment was based on what we allowed them to see." He gestured for her to follow him to another section of the cavern, where a series of historical displays had been arranged, almost like a museum exhibit. "Humanity has been developing in isolation for most of its history," he explained. "While other species joined the galactic community, shared technologies, fought wars, formed alliances, we watched, we learned, we kept our true capabilities hidden." "But why?" Lee asked. "The benefits of joining the galactic community come with expectations," Dr. Kang interrupted. "Alignments, military obligations, access to your resources. We chose a different path." He activated one of the displays, showing earlier prototypes of the fold technology, dating back nearly a century. "We've been preparing for this moment for generations," he continued. "The Draconians weren't the first to consider Earth a target, but we needed the right circumstances to reveal our true capabilities, a threat significant enough to justify our response, but not so overwhelming that we couldn't control the outcome." Lee's training had prepared her for many scenarios, but not this, an entire civilization that had systematically hidden its true nature from the galaxy. "You used the Draconian invasion as, what, a demonstration?" "A message," Dr. Kang corrected. "One that we hoped would be clearer than simple destruction. We could have obliterated the fleet, but what would that have accomplished? More aggression, more fleets. Instead, we showed that attacking Earth doesn't result in glorious battle or even honorable defeat. It results in simply ceasing to exist in known space." He led her to a final station where a small window looked out on what appeared to be another laboratory, but one that shimmered slightly as if viewed through water. "That facility exists in a controlled fold," Dr. Kang explained. "A scientist working there would experience 1 hour while we experience 1 week. We use it for accelerated research." Lee stared at the seemingly normal laboratory, trying to comprehend the power required to manipulate time itself. "And the Draconians? Will they ever be released?" Dr. Kang's expression grew solemn. "That decision hasn't been made. Some argue they should remain where they are indefinitely, a permanent reminder of the consequences of threatening Earth. Others believe that after sufficient time has passed, perhaps a century or two, we might establish communication, explain what happened, and offer them a chance to rejoin normal space, under strict conditions, of course. "The Council will want access to this technology," Lee said, already imagining the political fallout her report would cause. "The Council," Dr. Kang replied with a slight edge to his voice, "will need to reconsider its relationship with Earth. Entirely. We aren't interested in sharing weapons technology, but we are open to discussing new forms of peaceful cooperation." As they returned to the surface, Lee's mind was filled with implications. The galaxy's power structure had been fundamentally altered in a single day. The seemingly primitive humans had revealed themselves to be anything but, and they had done so not through destruction, but through an act of surprising restraint. "You know," she said as they reached Dr. Kang's laboratory again, "most species would have simply destroyed the fleet." Dr. Kang nodded slowly. "Perhaps that's why we chose differently. The true measure of power isn't in how much destruction you can cause, it's in how much you can avoid." The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire through a dry forest. On every inhabited world, in every spaceport and trading hub, beings of all species huddled around information terminals, their faces, whether covered in scales, fur, tentacles, or smooth skin, showing the same expression of disbelief. The entire Draconian fleet gone, not destroyed, vanished. How is that possible? In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from 200 species convened in an emergency session. The massive circular room with its soaring crystalline dome that revealed the star-speckled blackness of space above buzzed with anxious chatter in 1,000 languages. The translator drones hovering above each delegate worked overtime, their processors nearly overheating from the volume and intensity of conversations. The council president, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin and 4 arms, called for order. The chamber gradually fell silent. "We have received Investigator Lee's official report regarding the Draconian fleet," the president announced, voice amplified through the chamber. "The findings are unprecedented." Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing Investigator Lee's face as she delivered her report. Her expression was composed, but her eyes betrayed a hint of something the delegates couldn't quite identify. Was it wonder? Fear? Both. "The humans of Earth did not destroy the Draconian fleet," she stated clearly. "They relocated it using advanced space-time manipulation technology previously unknown to the Council. The fleet remains intact, but exists in what Earth scientists term a pocket dimension, essentially removed from our universe while remaining in proximity to Earth." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Furthermore," Lee continued, "time passes differently in this pocket dimension. For the Draconians, mere seconds have elapsed since their arrival at Earth. They remain unaware of their situation or the passage of time in our realm." On the Draconian homeworld of Scar Prime, chaos erupted as news reached the Imperial Palace. The ruling council, accustomed to victory announcements and conquest celebrations, now faced an unprecedented crisis. The massive obsidian walls of the council chamber, normally adorned with trophies from conquered worlds, seemed to close in around them. "Impossible!" roared High Councillor Tack, slamming his scaled fist against the black stone table. "No species possesses such technology. The humans were supposed to be primitive," hissed Councillor Vex, her forked tongue flicking nervously. "Our intelligence suggested they had barely mastered interplanetary travel, let alone—" "Our intelligence was clearly flawed," interrupted the oldest councillor. His scales faded from deep green to a pale mint with age. "And now we have lost our Emperor, our finest admiral, and 3 million soldiers." The implications were becoming clear throughout the galaxy. The mighty Draconian Empire, which had conquered 17 civilizations, destroyed countless others, and struck fear into the hearts of all spacefaring species for 3 millennia, had been neutralized in a single day. Not through superior firepower or devastating weapons, but through technology so advanced it appeared almost magical. More significantly, the humans had chosen not to destroy their enemy. On a dozen worlds previously marked as potential Draconian targets, celebrations erupted spontaneously. On Lyra IV, the 6-limbed natives danced in their floating cities, releasing luminescent spores that created breathtaking light shows in the night sky. On the ocean world of Aquaria, the sentient cetaceans breached in synchronized patterns, their joyful songs carrying for hundreds of kilometers through the deep waters. Meanwhile, other aggressive species hastily reconsidered their expansion plans. The insectoid hive collective withdrew their scout ships from 3 border systems. The silicon-based crystalline Dominion cancelled production of 50 new warships. The nomadic Ravager fleets changed course, suddenly discovering urgent business in distant galaxies. Back on Earth, The Planetary Defense Council gathered in their underground chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was utilitarian, a simple round table surrounded by 20 chairs, with holographic displays showing real-time data from around the solar system and beyond. President Han stood at the head of the table, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. "The Galactic Council has formally invited Earth to become a member world," she announced. "They're offering priority status, a seat on the inner council." General John snorted. "Of course they are. Yesterday we were a primitive curiosity. Today, we're the most feared planet in the galaxy." "Not feared," corrected Dr. Song. "Respected. There's a difference. We didn't annihilate our enemy when we could have. That matters to many species." The room fell silent as they considered their new position in the galactic community. For millennia, Earth had been isolated, unaware of the vast civilizations among the stars. Now, suddenly, humanity held the attention of thousands of worlds. "I recommend we decline council membership," said Defense Minister Park after a long pause. "At least for now." Surprised murmurs filled the room. "Explain," President Han requested. "The current galactic structure is based on military alliances and power blocks," Park said. "Two major factions, the Concordance and the Hegemony, locked in perpetual Cold War with lesser powers forced to choose sides. It's an unstable system that has led to countless proxy wars and the subjugation of newly discovered species." Dr. Kang nodded thoughtfully. "Instead of joining their system, we could propose an alternative." The idea grew quickly. Within days, Earth had transmitted a proposal throughout the galaxy, a new type of interstellar treaty, based not on military alliance, but on peaceful cooperation, cultural exchange, and scientific collaboration. Species could maintain their independence while still participating in galactic society. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of worlds, particularly those that had remained neutral or suffered under forced alliances, signaled immediate interest. The Galactic Council, recognizing the shifting political landscape, quickly moved to adapt rather than oppose the new paradigm. In a specially constructed facility in Antarctica, Dr. Song and her team maintained careful monitoring of the fold. On a particular display isolated from the others, they could observe the command deck of the Draconian flagship. There stood Admiral Kim, frozen in the moment of giving orders to begin the invasion, his mouth open in mid-command, his eyes gleaming, with anticipated victory. He remained completely unaware that for him, time had essentially stopped, while for the rest of the universe everything had changed. "What will happen to them, ultimately?" asked a young researcher, looking at the display. Dr. Song considered the question. "That decision belongs to future generations. Perhaps someday, when the wounds of history have healed and the galaxy truly embraces cooperation over conquest, they might be offered a second chance. A species capable of change deserves the opportunity to change." As Earth's influence spread throughout the stars, the Draconian fleet remained suspended in their bubble of slowed time, a reminder that humanity had faced extinction and responded not with destruction, but with ingenuity, not with vengeance, but with mercy. And throughout the galaxy, the message was clear. Earth was not to be conquered, but more importantly, Earth was not a conqueror. The end.